Hey y'all. So I'm waiting for Facebook to connect and then I will start my stream. All right. And now I'm live. All right. So welcome everyone to today's live. Looks like this is shine it up. Okay. So what I'm going to be talking about today is 3 reasons why only using social media to stream is bad for churches. So we all know that we are in the middle of a pandemic. And with this has forced a lot of our ministries and churches to take a look at digital ways to connect with their ministries. And while we're taking a look at these digital ways to connect with our ministries, the easy thing for us to think about is going straight to social media platforms in order to begin our streaming. One, because it's free, right? Two, because it's easy to use. All we have to do is hit a button and we go live. Three, because it is budget friendly, right? So if there are any type of budget restrictions for a local congregation, then this is easy for them to tap into, right? It doesn't require any type of training, anything when it comes to using platforms like Facebook or Instagram in order to stream your content. Now, what I do want to make note of is that churches, as we move forward, really need to consider having budgets for marketing and outreach so that this can help to smooth over processes when it comes to purchasing equipment such as cameras or getting a live streaming system that will help us to produce this online content that we want to create. One that is high definition, one that supports other ways of streaming outside of just using social media. Now, there's nothing wrong with streaming on social media. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I do not want church ministries to only use social media in order to stream their live content, right? So the main reason why I do not want this to happen, of course, I have 3 reasons why, right? So the main reason why I don't want this to happen is because, one, content ownership. Because you are streaming to an online source such as a Facebook or Instagram or even YouTube, you do not own that content. The platform that you're streaming to owns that content unless you decide to do something with it, like saving the content as soon as you finish your live broadcast. Or if you have any type of tech issues that happen, then there's no one for you to call. There's no tech team for you to get on the phone with to talk about what happened during your stream. So the only thing that these platforms provide you with, right? These major online platforms provide you with is is support by way of a FAQ. So that's frequently asked questions that you can go and look at and read to help you overcome your issue. Now, the problem with that is many of us want to talk to someone in real time to solve our problem. So if we're having a problem, we want real-time support that will match our issue. We don't want to read some form online, a FAQ, that will help us to solve this issue, right? So the biggest thing is going to be content ownership. So with that content ownership, I really want you all to consider, right? To really consider the fact that you're streaming on a public platform that you do not own the content. So if you do anything to violate community standards, and we know sometimes how that works online with these social media platforms, if you violate their community standards, they can remove your post entirely. So because you do that, you lose your content ownership rights. If something else happens, whereas your page may have been reported, right? And someone reports that page, then they can delete your entire social media page. Then what are you going to do with all of the content that you have taken the time to produce, with all of the content that you have streamed to these online platforms? You lose it. So you have to consider other ways to stream. So some other ways to stream I'm going to talk about once I get to my third point. So the second thing I want you to consider as to reasons why you shouldn't only use social to stream your church content is streaming licenses. So many of us, most churches, not many of us, but all churches sing songs, right? That is a part of our worship experience. So with us singing songs, they either come from a hymn book or they're songs that are praise and worship songs that come from a particular gospel artist. So because we're doing that, all of that music is licensed. So this is why people have to put up on social media that this music doesn't belong to them, right? We see this all the time when someone's playing music in the background or if they're singing a song. I don't own the rights to this music. If you do not have licenses to sing those songs over a broadcast, over a recorded stream, then you can also lose a part of your worship experience. So I've seen multiple times over where a church service is muted during the portion of people singing. And it's muted during the portion of people singing because they don't have the licenses to that music. And Facebook is doing, or social media in general, not just Facebook, but Instagram, not Twitter, but YouTube, they will mute your video, or YouTube in most instances will take your video down if it violates those licenses. Okay. So there are different type of streaming license services that you can use. I'm going to give you two that you can use. One is CCLI, which is Christian Copyright Licensing International. The other is CCS, which is Christian Copyright Solutions. Those are two platforms that will allow you to obtain a streaming license to sing the worship songs that we sing in a digital capacity by streaming online, recording the content, and producing it for viewership. Within this concept of obtaining a streaming license, this is important because many times when we are in corporate worship, right, we typically have song lyrics up on a screen. So because we have those song lyrics up on a screen, we also need to have those streaming licenses. So if you're doing this with your full worship service now, where we are having a full e-church experience due to COVID-19, and if you're sharing the lyrics to the screens or the lyrics to a song online, then you have to take that into consideration. Again, also because you're streaming, because that information is being recorded and you don't own that particular song that you're singing. The third thing is going to be to diversify your streaming. Okay, so diversify your streaming. I know again that utilizing social media platforms is going to be the easy thing for us to do, again because it's free, again because it's something that you're familiar with, you already use it because you have your own individual pages, and then again because it meets your budget restrictions. Because you're using these platforms, Facebook, Instagram, you need to also take a look at streaming on platforms like YouTube. You should also consider radio, and you need to consider streaming to your church's website. Now, I'm going to tell you why you need to consider each of these things. One, I understand again, Facebook Live is easy to use and it should be considered as one tool in your streaming distribution toolbox. It should be considered as one of the tools, not the only tool in your streaming distribution toolbox. Platforms like YouTube have a great reach for you also, so you can stream simultaneously in a lot of cases directly to your Facebook and your YouTube channel at one time if you have a streaming system that allows you to do that. I've talked to you all about one of the systems that we've used at my church, and that is Boxcast, and that is a system that allows you to stream simultaneously to multiple platforms at once, to the website, to Facebook, to YouTube, and etc. I say to consider radio because most of our churches are made up of an older demographic. So you have to consider the older demographic, even though we are going digital due to COVID-19. So if social media is not already a part of the fabric of your church, I don't believe now is the time to force that onto your church members, right? So you don't want to force social media on them if it's not already a part of your church experience. So you need to consider, can you still use radio in this instance? I know people like my grandmother, she's not going to go to Facebook to watch a church service, right? So can we tune in to a radio station for them to listen to the message as it's being delivered? Another way, if you don't want to consider radio for your ministry, is the fact that we can rebroadcast. So in order to rebroadcast or to replay a sermon, the best way to do that is to have a website for your ministry. I cannot stress enough that yes, your church needs to have a website. Yes, your church needs to have a website. Your website really should be the driving force and the driving factor to all of your church communications. It should not be your social media page, right? It should not be just your Sunday morning announcements. You need to have a centralized place where your members can go to receive information, updates as it relates to your ministry. So if they want to rebroadcast your stream after Sunday, or if I can go to my grandmother's house and say, hey, grandma, watch the service, it's easy for me to press a button or to put it on her television screen for her to see it. So we have to consider our older demographics during this time because we don't want to lose them, right? As we are going digital and having e-church online. So there are several things that you need to consider during this time. Again, your church's website or a mobile app should be your driving force to all of your communications. So if your church does not have a website, now is the time to consider to have one, okay? Because we need to have a centralized place to how you receive information for your ministry. If you need a website, K&R Communications can design that for you. So please reach out to me by way of our website, knragency.com, or send me a DM or a message on Facebook and we can talk more about that. Another way to look at that also is to have a mobile app for your church. So everyone has applications on their phones, and I know mobile apps came out a while ago where a lot of churches were having those mobile apps and then it kind of went away. But now, because people are heavily on their devices than they were, let's say 8 or 10 years ago, then you can consider if that will be a good option for your ministry. And I could talk to you more about different mobile apps that do exist that can embody several elements as it relates to your church communications. So what I've talked about on today is 3 reasons why you do not only want to use social media as your streaming platform for your church. It should be one of the items in your toolbox, but it should not be the only item that you use in order to reach your congregation. And I do understand all the elements, but I want you to really consider what I've shared with you on today. One, dealing with content ownership. You do not own any of the content that you share online. So if something happens to your stream, if they decide to take it down because it violates community standards, there's nothing that you can do about it. If something happens to your page, if they decide to take it down because someone may have reported it or it violates their community standards again, there's nothing that you can do about it and you lose all of your online content. And that's the worst thing that can happen, but it does happen all the time. 2, obtaining a streaming license. So if you're going to share lyrics of songs on screens, if you're going to record a service, you need to obtain a license so that you have the rights to sing those songs so that your broadcast is not muted, okay? And then the third thing is diversifying your stream. So consider not only Facebook or Instagram, but also YouTube, taking a look at radio for our older generations. And most importantly, the fact that you need to stream to your website and use your website as a centralized place for all of your church communications. So I am going to do again this week what I did last week. So if you missed this, last week I did a virtual office for pastors and church leaders. So if you are a ministry leader, if you are a pastor of a church, I am going to have my virtual office hours on tomorrow at noon. So please bring all of your questions. I'll share this. This is directly inside of my bio in Instagram, and I will share this on Facebook as well. Bring all of your questions as it relates to social media and uh, digital media in the life of your church, so that I can answer those questions for you, so that we can continue to advance the kingdom, and that it makes it easier for you to use these online elements, which is completely new to some churches, or is still foreign to churches who may have used social media to broadcast their services. But now the fact that we have to use this as our only way to reach our ministry, or the only way to reach our congregation, is kind of, we still might struggle with that. So if you have any questions or concerns or thought processes that you need to just, work your way through, please join me tomorrow at noon. That is April 1, tomorrow at noon, for my virtual office hours. The link is in my bio on Instagram, and I'll share that link on Facebook. So bring all of your questions. Tell your social media ministry leader, tell your media team to jump on. It is completely free. You can ask me any questions that you need to know as it relates to social media and using digital technology in the life of your church. So thank you all for joining my stream on today. And I will see you all next week with another series inside of the Digital Church series. So thank y'all, and I'll talk to you next week.